Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And before we get started with this week's video, I want to thank our sponsor rockerrags.com. Use the promo code AxelDuff and get 15% off your order. Now let's get started with this week's Guns N' Roses news. So we've got a pretty huge interview coming up this week. I'm not going to say anything about it. I just want it to speak for itself. So either tomorrow or Wednesday you guys will see the interview, but rest assured it's probably the biggest interview we've scored to date. So here's this week's news, guys. So it looks like Guns N' Roses are going to be having some more action figures coming out. So the most recent one and probably the most common one you guys know are the Funko Pops that came out, I think it was about a year and a half ago or so. So there's a company called Knuckle Bonds, and these guys make a lot of different rock and roll and music action figures. So they're going to be making Appetite era Guns N' Roses action figures. Now, there has been no official press announcement from them, I believe. This news got leaked pretty much because some guy attended, it was like a toy convention in New York City, and he actually filmed some of the Guns N' Roses action figures. So there's no release date on when it's coming out, but I will keep you guys up to date. And on their website, you can see that they have a ton of other action figures, including Billy Gibbons. They've got Lemmy. They've got even some stuff from like album covers. So you can see they got Appetite for Destruction here. Now, what's kind of interesting is that for the action figures, they only have Axl, Slash, and Duff. But on the actual Celtic Cross, they got all 5 original members. And while no pricing has been announced yet for these figures, it's probably safe to assume they're probably going to be $125 a piece if you look at their website and what they charge for other action figures. Now, I have the Funko Pop ones. Those ones are kind of weird because they have like a mixture of different eras. Like the Slash one, it seems like it's more recent. The Duff one is a more recent one of Duff, whereas the Axl one is from like 1992. So they kind of blended all these different eras together. And Funko Pops is right now being sued by Gibson, who themselves are having a lot of financial troubles. So it's possible that those Funko Pops that they did for Guns N' Roses may not be on the market for very much longer if Gibson's successful with their lawsuit. So now, Todd Kerns did an interview recently where he was asked about the next Conspirators record with Slash, and Myles did an interview recently where the topic also came up, and it's pretty much been the same response from those guys, which is basically, we don't know when we're going to record a new record, but at some point we'll get back together and record a new record. So, everybody's got so much on their plates, but it seems like with Myles doing his solo stuff and Alter Bridge that it's possible we may not see another Conspirators record till like 2019 or 2020, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but we'll keep you guys updated as news breaks. Myles Kennedy did an interview where he talked about wanting to work again with Slash and the Conspirators. So during the interview, the interviewer asked him, and this was with Glide Magazine, will there be anything coming up with Slash and those guys? He said, I love those guys and I'm sure there will be something in the future. I think we all felt it was a healthy, great experience, and hopefully there will be something down the road because I have tremendous amount of respect for all those guys. He also briefly touched on having bandmate Frank Sidoris' hair in his mouth while playing on stage. So he was asked, have you ever been afraid of your life when Todd and Frank were running around swinging all that hair? And Myles basically said, oh sure, I remember on one occasion Frank was swinging his head and I got a big chunk of his hair that went right down my throat. He has a great tasting conditioner. He was also asked about his songwriting ability. So the interviewer said, every time that I talk to Todd Kerns, we marvel at your ability to write such incredible songs. So being that you're an actually normal, happy guy, does it take a lot of effort to go real deep and find the sadness or hurt for more emotional songs? To which Myles said, yeah, I'll be straight up. I tried to be a well-adjusted, normal person. I strive for that. But like everybody, we have things that we deal with in internal struggles. I think that music has always been a kind of working through a lot of that, and I think probably a lot of that comes from losing a parent at a young age. There's kind of a dark side that resides in me, and I just try to deal with that in healthy ways. Being creative is probably the best I can do with that. So Myles is referring to his father, who passed away when he was pretty young, and if you guys didn't know, Myles' parents were Christian Scientists, so they didn't really believe in going to the doctor if you were ill. It was more pray it away and you'll get better. Turning now to some Duff McKagan news. So with the horrible events that happened in Florida in the last week or so, a lot of musicians have been taking to Twitter and posting their thoughts about it. And one group that's always been pretty vocal about their political opinions has been Pearl Jam. So on their Twitter, they posted, "We demand new gun legislation and additional mental health support." And Duff McKagan also responded to Pearl Jam's tweet saying, "I really like what Pearl Jam stands for over the years, and this." Turning now to some troubling news. So guitar maker Gibson is reportedly facing bankruptcy, according to CNBC. So the company was founded over 100 years ago in Michigan, And it's kind of funny, Gibson has an annual revenue of more than $1 billion, but it also has another $145 million in bank loans that will be due immediately if senior secured notes are not refinanced by mid-July, a report says. So last Thursday, Gibson issued a statement that said ongoing streamlining strategy would help it record the best financial results the company has seen in history within the next year. It also said that the firm would have the ability to pay back the company's debt in whole within the next 7 years. Now, there's been no comment or word from Slash on his thoughts on the future of Gibson, and if you guys remember, Slash recently became the company's global ambassador and released a new line of guitars from the company as well. So we've got some Steven Adler news this week. So he did 2 radio interviews that I've posted both of on my channel. So if you guys want to hear those interviews, they're up on my channel. Not a whole lot of new information. He did say that he will be playing Europe this coming year. He did say he'll also be playing on some sort of cruise ship that goes through the Mediterranean. And he also mentioned he'd be playing Australia this May as well, and doing some book signings while he's over there. He also posed with NBA All-Star player Kevin Durant during the All-Star weekend. I believe it was last week in Los Angeles, so here's a picture of that. And if you guys remember, Steven Adler will be playing the Whiskey A Go-Go on May 10th with Slash's son's band, Classless Act, opening up for them. So you can go to the Whiskey site and purchase your tickets. They range all the way from $25 to $500 a piece. Turning now to some news for you gamers. So there was a game that came out back in 2008 called Burnout Paradise, and it was one of the most successful racing games that came out in the last decade, and it was a great game. And Paradise City was actually the theme song for this game. So it was announced earlier this week by Electronic Arts, the publisher of the game, that they were going to remaster the game and bring it to current consoles. And Paradise City is once again going to be on the game's soundtrack and will probably be the theme song as well. So March 16th, the game is going to be coming out. Let me know if you guys are gamers in the description box below. In another lifetime, I used to be a video game journalist, but that's a story for another time. So let's go on to our next piece of news. So we've got some Richard Fortus news. So of course, he's from St. Louis, and while he was in St. Louis this past week, actually it was 2 weeks ago, he got on stage with the band Blackberry Smoke and performed the Guns N' Roses song Used to Love Her. So I've linked to that performance down below. It doesn't have your typical Richard Fortus-esque stage move, so he's not playing an oversized guitar, he's not doing any kind of windmills or spins, but he's definitely the most active person on stage. Turning now to some Dizzy Reed news. So Dizzy, of course, was in Australia last weekend, and he kicked off his album's launch, Rock and Roll Ain't Easy, with a gig at Frankie's Pizza. So there is some footage of that gig, and he also did a number of interviews while he was in Australia. So he had one where you could actually see him and his band rehearsing before his gig, and there's a bunch of other interviews I've all posted on my blog down in the description box below, so go check it out. So there's a new interview with Bumblefoot, who of course was the former guitar player in Guns N' Roses. He was being interviewed on YouTube by Sofa King Cool and expressed his frustration by websites that twist his words. So he said to the interviewer, that frustrates everybody, but it's like we're having a great conversation. Now someone else is going to be like, okay, this is an opportunist little shit, and I can take this thing, as someone said, and twist it around and make something that's inflammatory, which is not fair to that person who didn't say it in that context. Or it's starting shit between two camps and something like that, and that's not cool. It's not fair to manipulate the fans and get them all riled up in a negative way, and that's why the person is doing that, so they can make money or make more revenue getting more clicks and just that shit. He also continued, I think a majority of the press world doesn't do that. I think they do it because they love it, and they feel like they have this moral obligation to be a conduit between members of the world and getting the word out and transferring information and helping things become bigger. I think that's where most people stand with it all. But every once in a while a headline will get out and it'll just wake up in the morning and I'm like, that's not what I said. And that's not what I meant. It looks so evil in print, but within 2 days it's gone. It's just leave it alone. It fizzles away. Everyone's cursing you out for 2 days and then someone's cursing someone else out. Turning now to a cool video that Miss Metal posted on her channel. So if you guys remember, Miss Metal was on our podcast last week and she was a great guest. We hope to have her on again in the future. And she's got a really cool rare interview with Robert Williams, who was the artist behind the original cover for Appetite for Destruction. So I put a link to that down below. You guys can go check out. Now, I've trashed the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a lot and said it's a joke, and I still think it's a joke, but every now and then they have something cool on their YouTube channel. So they have a story. It's just a short little 1 minute or 2 minute video, but it's the story of Slash's Guns N' Roses era custom leather jacket that they had in display in Cleveland. So I've linked to that down below if you guys want to go check it out. We've also got some Myles Kennedy news. So he was live at Pace Studio in New York City performing some songs off his upcoming solo album, Year of the Tiger. And he was also interviewed on Loudwire, where he was talking and taking fan questions about his upcoming solo record as well. So I've linked to both those articles below in the description box. So that does it for this week's Guns N' Roses and related news. Thanks for watching, guys. We have a pretty big surprise coming on Wednesday morning. That's all I'm going to say. You guys better tune in because I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by what we have. And thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you love Guns N' Roses as much as I do. And go follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And make sure you guys go visit GNRCentral.com for the latest GNR news. And you guys can also go support us on Patreon as well. Take care.